I think it's safe to say that most photography influencers have never actually made their living as a working professional photographer, but I have. Today I'm going to show you the secret that most don't. When you go out to a session, the editing starts when we're out there in the field taking the photos, but I'm going to show you how to actually make that work to the final editing step that no one else is teaching you. The starting your edit in the camera and having the right mentality, and then getting the edit well in post instead of just random garbage by cranking sliders too high. But the most important I'm going to cover today is the equalization edit, the proof edit, what the real masters do before they publish. The first is, yes, selecting the photos. And this is something that I actually learn a lot from when I go out and shoot film. You know, I cover various film cameras, and I'll shoot a Hasselblad with an Instax, and I use all these different cameras and 35 mils and Contaxes, and I shoot rolls of film to test and improve the film's presets and all this stuff. But there's something else very important that shooting this way always reminds me, and that is that you have to select ruthlessly. When you have a pack of 10 photos that's expensive and you're sitting here, you don't just go and take those photos like I would on the Nikon. Now, I'm not saying that's inherently wrong, but I have to select and choose those photos very carefully, right down to when I release the shutter, hoping that I get the expression in the moment right so I don't have to take another one. It's expensive. Now, this is just the lesson, the analogy of selecting and being able to choose. Because in real life, I'm usually importing the digital files, right? And so when I come in and I'm going through and I'm importing and I'm selecting, I maybe have 1,000 photos. Maybe you have a great session. There's 1,000 photos. What are you going to do with all these? And you come back and you say, well, they're all good. So the first thing is you have to be able to tell the difference between two really good photos that are almost identical. Now here, these are selections, right? But you notice a little bit of inconsistency. Some are a little warmer, some are a little cooler. Now look at this group. These are pretty consistent. They're different poses, different directions. Some have the white background, some don't, but there's a constancy. That's what we're going to focus on today. Yes, the first tip in this is learn to choose the best photos. As you're shooting, which is why I love how I'm made to think when I shoot film. The number 2 step is just generally consistent editing across a session and across subgroups within a session, a wedding. Don't click away just yet, because these 3 steps are really going to tie together your editing process. If you look at these, how I had them originally, there was a couple black and whites. Now, why is that? Well, as I was going through, I thought, wow, these look really good in black and white. They're clean, they're elegant. It kind of has the 80s, 90s vibe. And this is something we forget a lot. When we go through, we shoot 1,000 photos, and then we go through and we rate stars or colors or however you like to rate your photos. And then usually I'll apply like a preset, maybe a Filmist 400H, for example, on everything. And then I'll do a few grid edits, like turning up exposure, making sure everything's dialed in. But after that, I kind of go into these subgroups where here's one pose or one outfit. Here's another pose and one outfit. Or here's eating at the reception. Here's walking down the aisle. Here's the first dance. A subgroup could also be the 5, 6, 8 photos that you print as a folio or you upload as an Instagram post or something like that. In real life, that might be what's happening more often than not. Because when you post a photo on Instagram, if you post a group of 5 or 6 photos from that session that go together, there tends to be a lot more of an interaction. But this could also apply if you're making prints for a client folio, if you're showing a client a group of images for an album or for a wall portrait, etc. So if you look here on this other session, I have a few groups, and this is all the same session. So this is clearly a group, but there can be a wrong way to do it. In the end, it's all your creative decision. But look at this. If I go to this group here where the model's holding the Hasselblad in front of the white backdrop, this is really cool and she really liked it. It's a Hasselblad. People love it. And when I take this out and shoot instant on it, people go crazy. I mentioned this in my recent film cameras video. But notice how as I'm going through edit these, when you first edit, you're not seeing them all at once. So you might say, oh, this looks cool. I'm going to send it to my client. And you edit it one way and you're like, oh, I love the Portrait 800 look. And I do. I use it all the time. But then I might go to some other ones and be like, oh, I'm going to go to silver and do some cool black and white. Look at this skin. Look at the way the white pops. Okay. And what I need to be doing is being consistent across those. So if I say I'm going to break up a group and I want some in color and black and white, there's generally going to be some kind of a separation point. For example, in this group here, if I wanted some black and white in color, I might have gone in and stopped on these last 3, which are also with this Hasselblad, but this was done years ago. and made these a different process, or made these in black and white. We're going to come back to this group on the final set because it doesn't look right still, and I'm going to explain why in step 3. If you were to look at the 90 or so 5-star studio photos I did in this session last week, you kind of see this. There's a group, there's a group, there's a group, and there's some breaking up of these groups that are similar, but each one kind of has a theme. Now, when I go to publish these in an article, a blog post, an Instagram post, that's all publishing, then I really want them to be consistent. So number 1 is kind of culling in how you shoot and thinking about your poses, and then how you sort them down and not selecting too many images. Number 2, as we recap here, is as you edit, you kind of subdivide into subgroups of your session. And you say, okay, no, this group is going to be black and white, this is going to be color, this is going to be this look, this is going to be an HDR look, this is going to be a film look, etc. And by doing this, you have consistently, and it makes you look really professional. And when you go to send all the photos, they're not looking through and be like, well, what do I share? There's one, but then the next one looks almost exactly the same in black and white. No, don't do that. As the photographer, we have to have the skill and the decisiveness to decide, 1, which photo is the best, which pose, which expression, and 2, within those photos we select, how to edit each subgroup of images, which brings us to the all-important step 3, which is really why I made this video. If you go to my Instagram and look at how I do a post, you'll see kind of some consistency. Some posts have a wide range of images, but there's still a consistent feel to how they're edited. There's not a random black and white all by itself. There's certainly not a selective color. If I'm working on the street, it might be a lot of different images, but I'm going to go through and think about the order, what I'm photographing, where it's at, and does it make kind of a consistent body of work for that post. And this brings us back to finishing the edit. This is actually the post edit, if you're being honest, because I can edit all the photos. I've sorted them down. We've edited them. We've kind of made our subgroupings and chosen them, and they look good. But now you say, okay, I want to go back and do something with these. In fact, I made this video because I was going to go publish these photos, and I said, wow, they don't quite have a synergy with each other. They seem like they're all edited a little bit differently. Now, even though you've edited your session pretty well, this could be variances in exposure, white balance, just the pose, the way it was cropped, the way one image leads into another. When you look at these, you see that these ones here are a little bit cooler. These ones here are a little bit warmer. Well, except this one, which is a little bit off. All of these have been edited, and most of them have probably been edited pretty similarly, and yet there's these differences. Look at this versus this. Both of them are fine, but the edit feels differently. Sometimes it's as simple as turning the exposure up or down on one because you got it just a little bit off. And it may not have mattered in the overall edit, but when you're going to publish, that inconsistency can be important. If I'm publishing on Instagram in a group, I want them to be the same crop most of the time because it's going to end up looking better. So I'm going to intentionally really go in and make sure they're all cropped. In this case, 2:4:3. That's my favorite crop ratio in general for serving on mobile devices. Now I can look at this and say, well, this one has a custom white balance. It's a little bit different. What if we copy this over with all of its effects? Do they look a little more consistently? And they do a little bit, but it's not always as simple as just copying and pasting. Now, I probably won't use both of these in the post because they're very close, but as I'm going through here, I'm looking at this and saying, well, this one's a little red and this one's a little yellower, even though I've applied the same white balance to them. Now, I've done videos on why you shouldn't obsess over white balance in camera because the variables can be so subtle, you should shoot raw and just adjust it later. A lot of times, the difference in dialing in one image to the next is just a very slight change in white balance. Now, when I bring these up, just by adding a little bit more red into the left side, there's a strong similarity. Each one is slightly different, but their overall color feels close. Although this one on the left now feels a little warmer. So I might actually go and turn the temperature down a tiny bit. And sometimes I'll do this manually when I'm at this stage because the slider can move so much. So I might just go to 5400 manually and it'll get a tiny bit cooler. Okay, but what's happening with this one? This one feels a little off. Let's try pasting that same white balance and all those settings over to this one. Now this might seem slow and arduous, but bear in mind, you're only doing this with your best images. When I look at the one on the left now, even though I like it, it's a lot closer up, the angle's a little different, and the saturation and warmth feels a little off. So I'm going to add a little red. I'm going to add a little warmth. I'm going to add just a touch of saturation. And boom, now we have consistency. It's not always about everything being exactly the same within a subgroup that you're going to publish. It's more about the differences leading one into the other in a way that feels natural. So as I'm going through these, one goes up a little, one goes down a little. Sometimes it's exposure, sometimes it's white balance. And it's about making sure they feel good together. This is that final step that makes a body of images ready to publish. Sometimes I'll go through and copy the preset and the white balance to all of them, but sometimes that won't work. So for those that'll come into the comments and say, oh, if you'd white balance in camera, if you used a white balance card, you wouldn't have to do this. It doesn't work. That's not how white balance is, because you can change angle from this side to this side, and now their face is over here, and you've subtly changed the color of the light hitting their face. So even if you white balance and did all these photos the same, you would still have to do this part in editing if you wanted really good professional level consistency and color grading. And so after a few minutes of this, here are 8 images that are all graded. You can see that these are all different, but they all connect to each other. One can flow into the other. So now I can look at these 8 and say, okay, which ones do I want to use the post? Should I take all of these? Or maybe that's a little redundant. I should cut it down to maybe 5 or 6 favorites, because the whole process started in camera with seeing and choosing which images to take. That's where the editing really started. Then it went to culling and how we edited overall by not just randomly mixing black and white with color with one with the other. And then when that's all said and done and the images are already good and now we're ready to publish, we go into these kind of subgroups to say which ones are truly my best for the 5 images that I'm going to publish on the blog or in the magazine of this set or on Instagram or on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And are they consistent when you're flipping through, when you're looking at them on a page side by side? This is presentation. It can affect the print, it can affect the online presentation, and it's something that's barely even taught because it's not a solid rule. You might be inclined to look at them and say, okay, if I choose Portrait 400 and I do the white balance and then I paste it to all of them, it's going to be good. But it doesn't actually work that way, because in a body of images, there's different angles, there's different directions, there's different poses, there's different feelings. These aren't all the same set of images in a studio, and even there, that doesn't actually work. And especially when you're at things that are on the go, like a wedding or something like that, a group of images, one of the images might need a more HDR look and the other might need a more filmic look just to have the same kind of synergy. They might need a completely different editing of shadow and highlights or how you manipulate the background a little bit to balance them out. I call this the equalization of the group to prepare it for publishing. That's not a very good catchphrase. I should probably stop calling it that. You can see how I did it across the studio session even. If I go into that survey mode, you can see how all these are similar, but they weren't so similar out of camera. And it wasn't only white balance. Sometimes the flash pops off and it's a little underpowered or not fully recharged and it gets you a little bit different look. So you have to adjust that exposure, but when you adjust that exposure, you have to compensate highlights and shadows a little bit. These are things that don't matter so much on the individual photo editing when you're going through in develop mode, but when you come to the group, they become really important. And so as I went into each and every one of these subsets, I went through this same process because these are all sequences that I'm planning to use to publish. And you'll notice that each one stands completely on its own. Each one is like a mini session within a session. This is equally true in a wedding, for example. This, and this, all of these kind of go together, but this one of the first dance doesn't quite fit in with this. These two here on a completely different part of the beach with different lighting don't quite fit in. So I'm going to count those as another grouping. This is my grouping that's kind of walking across the beach into the sunset. It's important to understand that this isn't a rule. But for example, if I post 8 photos and 7 of them are color and 1 of them is black and white, I feel like there's an imbalance. If I want to mix in some black and white, I might do 3 black and white with those 8 color because it shows that I had a consistent process in what I was creating, and it's not just this isolated odd man out, because I'm not here to try and make rules. What I wanted to do is show you the process of how I come in after that first phase of the edit and the second phase of the edit, at which point a session is pretty much edited and ready to present, and I add on that third phase on the most important ones. Sometimes this could mean taking a group into Photoshop and using something like pictorialist actions. Sometimes this could mean deciding whether I want to do all color or all black and white because I have a few oddities in there. Sometimes you say, I love the process of Portrait 800, I did on all of these, but this just looks amazing in black and white. You have to decide. Are you going to break out a separate subgroup and maybe have 3 or 4? I will actually do this in the grid edit. When I'm editing a session, I will rarely allow for there just to be one image in black and white randomly. If I switch to black and white, it will usually be a sequence of images in black and white, and then it will switch back to color and be another sequence. If there's one that's a very intense, dark, moody process, it will be that, and then it will switch back to the lighter, airier process. The main thing is that for your visualization that you have here, from the point that you started editing in the camera when you were out doing the work, all the way through to that phase 3 edit. Everyone's relying on AI and fixes so much that they're not doing most of these things, and most of these things aren't being taught. But almost no one anymore is talking about the phase 3 edit, which is prepping for print and presentation. And I think the more we're able to do that, the more we will survive this kind of photography AI apocalypse that we're seeing. I've seen this before. I watched the transition from film to digital, and isn't it interesting that now film is kind of coming back because people are so sick of fake, they want something real and organic and natural. You don't have to use film to be real. I use that as an example. And I hope you found this useful. Let me know in the comments what you think, if this resonates with you at all. Are you using that 3rd phase of editing for presentation? And how do you do it? How do you mix it? How do you get that consistency? All right, you guys, hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next time.